Hello everyone and welcome to my video lecture series. Okay, so yesterday we had completed the anatomy of human respiratory system. Okay, and while completing the lecture I had told you something about a diaphragm, right? So diaphragm is basically a muscle which is present, okay, and it is present below the rib cage. Okay, so I think everybody knows rib cage, thoracic cage, right? So the cage formed by ribs, sternum, vertebral column. So below that the diaphragm is present, and this diaphragm acts like a septum. Okay, so please remember this word. Now what is a septum? So in biology basically septum is like a wall. Okay, so any material which divides a single part into two parts, it is called as a septum. Okay, for example, if you see this mesethmoid cartilage, it is dividing the entire nasal cavity into two nasal chambers. So this mesethmoid is also called as a septum. Okay, so what is the diaphragm doing? So basically if you remember the structure, right, so these are the lungs. Okay, and below the lungs this diaphragm is present. So this area which is present, okay, this is called as the thoracic cavity, right? Thoracic cavity is the cavity of the chest, and below the diaphragm is present the abdominal cavity. So the entire body cavity is being divided into thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity by the diaphragm, and that is why it is called as a septum. Okay, is this clear? And it helps in breathing. We are going to see how. So anyway, the topic for today is going to be mechanism of respiration. So we are going to start with that. So everybody now knows what respiration is. So respiration basically involves exchange of gases, okay, taking in air containing oxygen, removal of air containing carbon dioxide, and also at the same time producing ATP, which is the energy currency of the body, and that is called as respiration. So now mechanism of respiration uh, is the topic, and there are four subtopics which we have to study under that. Okay, so the first part under mechanism of respiration that we will be studying today is breathing. The next part is something which is called as external respiration. Okay, even this we are going to be studying today. Then the next part is going to be internal respiration. Okay, I'm going to cover this up in a separate lecture, so we are not going to do this today. And the last part under mechanism of respiration is cellular respiration. So that is the entire topic called as mechanism of respiration. It is probably the most important part of this chapter. Okay, so today we are going to study breathing and external respiration, and in the next lecture we will cover these other parts. Okay, so first of all let us start with breathing. So what is the meaning of breathing, friends? So breathing in very simple words is a physical process. Okay, and why is it called as a physical process? Because we take air inside our lungs from the environment, and we remove air from the lungs and release it to the environment. That is called as breathing. And breathing is divided into two parts. Okay, taking in air is called as inspiration or inhalation of air, and removal of air from the lungs is called as expiration or exhalation of air. Okay, so now basically we have to study the mechanism of inspiration and expiration, how it is occurring. Okay, what causes air to enter the lungs, what causes air to exit the lungs. Is this clear? So first of all let us start with inspiration. Okay, and we'll be making use of a diagram which is over here. So I've already drawn this diagram beforehand. Let me rub this part off. Okay, so before we start with the diagram, there are basically four parts which are involved in breathing. Okay, there are four parts of the body, so I will just list those parts. First part is basically the thoracic cage or the rib cage. Okay, and in the thoracic cage, so in this diagram you can see this white colored area, these are the ribs, this is the sternum, correct? This entire structure is called thoracic cage. Okay, so in the thoracic cage there are two things which are very important. First is the ribs, okay, and second is the sternum, And apart from these two structures, there are two muscles which help in breathing, and they are, so the third thing which is useful in breathing is the diaphragm muscle, which we have already talked about, and the fourth muscles are the intercostal muscles. Okay, so intercostal muscles have already been covered in 11th standard human locomotion chapter. So intercostal muscles are basically the muscles which are present over here. Okay, so if you want, I will show. So the muscles present between the ribs, so these areas, I will use a different color to shade. So if I'm shading these regions, okay, so basically the space between the ribs and the sternum, that is covered entirely by the intercostal muscles. Okay, so four things which help in breathing: ribs, sternum, diaphragm, and intercostal muscles. Is this clear? Okay, so should we start with the mechanism of breathing? Okay, so the first thing which we are going to study is something which is called as inspiration. Okay, so I'm going to write it down over here, inspiration. Now, before we start with this part, I want to make sure that everybody knows how a muscle functions. So muscle undergoes two things. Okay, first is contraction and second is relaxation, right? So suppose if I am drawing a muscle which is contracted, that means the length of the muscle has become shorter but the thickness is increased. So suppose if this is the muscle which has contracted, then its length you can see over here and the thickness you can see over here. If this same muscle undergoes relaxation, then what is going to happen is, so you can see that the thickness has reduced, but the length, if you see, it has increased. So I'm hopeful that everybody remembers this, because it is very, very important when we are going to study breathing. What is contraction, what is relaxation? During contraction, the length of the muscle decreases. During relaxation, it increases. Okay, so now let us start with the first part, which is called inspiration. So now during inspiration, what happens is air enters your respiratory system, it goes inside the alveoli. Alveoli are like balloons, they fill up and the lungs expand, correct, because they are filled with air. So what is going to happen is this entire region, okay, so this is the thoracic cage or the thoracic cavity, the space inside the rib cage. So this thoracic cavity basically needs to expand, because if the air is going into the lungs are going to expand, and for the lungs to expand there has to be space in the thoracic cavity, so this rib cage also has to expand. So how is that going to happen? So now take a look. So your muscle, which is the diaphragm, okay, that diaphragm is present over here, correct, and that diaphragm is like this. It is a dome shaped muscle, U shaped. So now if the lungs want to expand, first of all they will require space over here, because this diaphragm is very close to the lungs, so that diaphragm has to go down. And the other thing is, this rib cage has to kind of expand, so that there is space for the lungs to inflate. Okay, inflate means to get filled. So first thing that happens is, this diaphragm which is present, it undergoes contraction. So when the diaphragm contracts, its length decreases, and it becomes slightly straighter. So what happens is, this diaphragm goes slightly lower and it becomes flat. So this is contraction, correct, because if you see, if you measure this length of the initial diaphragm, it is this curved position, it is obviously going to be more than this dotted position. So what is going to happen is, first thing that happens is that the diaphragm contracts, okay, so it kind of straightens up. So now your diaphragm is like this. Initially it was U-shaped. So now there is extra space over here so that the lungs can expand. But that space is not enough. The space inside this ribcage also has to expand. So now what happens is, the intercostal muscles, again I am telling you, the intercostal muscles which are present, they are the muscles which are present over here between the ribs and the sternum. So what happens is, just imagine that this is your rib cage, okay, so the place where the fingers are overlapping, this portion is the sternum, correct, and your rib cage is like this. So when the intercostal muscles they contract, so again the intercostal muscles are reducing in length. So what happens is the rib cage is kind of opened up. So when the intercostal muscles contract, the rib cage opens up like this. Just imagine that you are seeing the rib cage from the front. So initially the rib cage was like this, and when the intercostal muscles contracted, they pulled the ribs, and because of that what happened was the rib cage opened up. So again there is more space. Are you understanding my point? So now two muscles have contracted. Diaphragm has contracted, intercostal muscles have contracted. So now what is going to happen is there is more space inside this area. Okay, so this space is now called as the thoracic volume. Okay, so what is thoracic volume? Thoracic volume is the space which is present in this area of the thoracic cage. Why has the space increased? Why has the thoracic volume increased? Because diaphragm has contracted, and the initial position of the diaphragm, okay, which was this, okay, this was the original position of the diaphragm. Since it has contracted and gone down, so space over here has increased. Similarly, the intercostal muscles have also contracted, so the rib cage has opened up, and because of that, space inside the rib cage has also increased. So overall volume of the thoracic cavity has increased. Do you all agree with me? So now if the volume over here increases, okay, this entire volume increases. So the lungs I have shown with this orange color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rub these blue lines off so it doesn't become confusing. Okay, so okay, so if the thoracic volume decreases, sorry, if the thoracic volume increases, so what happens to the pressure? The pressure decreases. Please remember that pressure is inversely proportional to volume. You know this. So the air pressure over here now is very less because the volume has increased. So now what happens is a pressure gradient is created. I have told you what a gradient is. Gradient is a condition in which two opposite things are happening. For example, positive and negative charge, or high concentration, low concentration, or high pressure, low pressure. Why a gradient is created? Because over here the thoracic volume has increased, so the thoracic pressure has decreased, but the air pressure outside the nose, the environmental air pressure has not decreased. So the environmental air pressure is more, the thoracic air pressure is less. So air will move from where to where? It will obviously move from higher pressure to lower pressure. It is just like diffusion. Any molecule will move from higher concentration to lower concentration. So the air will rush into the external nares or the nostrils, travel through the nasal chamber, internal nares. Then can you remember the parts? Nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx, larynx, trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, bronchioles, finally the alveoli, and each alveoli will fill up like a balloon. So are you understanding why the air is coming inside the respiratory tract? Because pressure inside this thoracic cage has decreased. Why has the air pressure decreased? Because the thoracic volume has increased. Why has the thoracic volume increased? Because both the muscles have contracted and they have made more space. Is this clear? So now all your alveoli are filled like balloons, so they will expand. So obviously if the alveoli are filled up like balloons, and they will inflate or expand, the lungs will also inflate. But there is space for the lung to inflate because already that mechanism or that arrangement has been done by both the muscles. Is this clear? Okay, so this is called as inspiration. So I'm going to label this diagram over here. First diagram, which is your inspiration diagram. So as you can see, I have shown the air is going in. I have also shown that the diaphragm has contracted, so it has become flattened. Okay, so what do you need to remember in inspiration? You need to remember that both muscles, both the diaphragm and intercostal muscles, they contract. Okay, please remember both of them contract, and because of that they increase the space inside the thoracic cavity. Thoracic volume increases, thoracic pressure goes down, inversely proportional. So pressure gradient is created. outside environmental air pressure is more, inside the lungs the air pressure is less, so air will flow from outside to inside. Is this clear? Okay, now this inspiration is called as an active process. What is an active process? Active process is a process in which ATP is used in the form of energy, correct? So why do you think ATP is getting used up in this process? Very common sense, very simple. The muscles are contracting, right? So for contracting the muscles you require ATP. Okay, contraction of muscles require ATP, relaxation of muscles do not require ATP, so that is a passive process. So since you are contracting two different type of muscles, diaphragm also and intercostal also, you are requiring ATP, and that is why inspiration is an active process. Please remember this. So I am writing over here, it is an active process, that means it requires energy. Is this clear? If you have understood inspiration, expiration will become very easy. Now if I ask you, is expiration an active or passive process? It is a passive process. Let me write it down, then I will explain it to you, or you might have understood why is it passive. So now you want to remove the air from the lungs. Everything that is going to happen is going to be opposite in nature. So what is going to happen first? Both the muscles which have contracted, now they will relax. So diaphragm, which is in the contracted state, it is flat over here. When it relaxes, what will happen is the length will increase and it will again become dome shaped. So your diaphragm will become like this. You can see this length is more than this length. So now what happens is this diaphragm becomes dome shaped and it begins to push the lungs. Okay, it is now exerting pressure on the lungs because now it has become relaxed and it is now moving up. So it is going to put pressure on the lungs. The second thing which is going to relax is what? The intercostal muscles. So your rib cage is like this, correct? Now the intercostal muscles will relax, so their length will increase. So again the rib cage will close in a bit. So again the rib cage space or the thoracic space has reduced. So space from below has also reduced, space inside the ribs has also reduced. So all that is going to put pressure. See, your lungs are filled with air. So now suddenly the surrounding space is becoming less, so it is putting pressure. The diaphragm is putting pressure on the lungs from below, and this rib cage which has closed, it is putting pressure on the lungs from all sides. So now what happens is the thoracic volume has reduced. The thoracic volume has reduced. See, thoracic volume is the area which is present inside the rib cage. Now it has reduced because both the muscles have relaxed. If the thoracic volume reduces, what will happen to the thoracic pressure? It will increase because they are inversely proportional. So let me write down expiration over here. Again the same rule. Okay, so both muscles will relax. Both muscles, by that I mean diaphragm and all the intercostal muscles, they will relax. So what is going to happen? Thoracic volume will reduce, and when that happens, thoracic pressure will increase, correct? Because inversely proportional. So again a gradient is created. Now suddenly inside the thoracic cavity air pressure is more, whereas the environmental air pressure comparatively it is less. So now again air will move from high pressure to low pressure. So the air will go from, now again the reverse thing, alveoli to the bronchioles, to the tertiary bronchi, to the secondary bronchi, to the primary bronchi, to the trachea, to the larynx, okay, to the laryngopharynx, to the oropharynx, to the nasopharynx, to the internal layers, to the nasal chamber, to the external layers and outside. So the air goes from high pressure to low pressure. Is this clear? Expiration is an active process or a passive process? It is a passive process. Why? Because relaxation of muscles doesn't require energy. Okay, see, contraction of muscles is like this. If you pull a string, you require energy. So you are basically creating tension, you are pulling the string. But now if you want the string to go back to its original position, you don't need to push it. If you leave it, it will go. You don't require energy to do that. Similarly, if you have a wet cloth and if you twist it, you require energy. But if you leave it, then again it will uncoil. It doesn't require energy. Similarly, muscles require energy for contraction. So contraction is like coiling up of muscle, that is why the length decreases, thickness increases. But for relaxation of muscles, no energy is required. Since in expiration both the muscles relax, energy is not required, hence expiration is a passive process. Is this clear? Okay, so with that friends, we have completed this part for today, which is on mechanism of breathing. I hope this is clear. Okay, please remember both muscles contract during inspiration, they relax during expiration. Please remember that the pressure during inspiration decreases inside the cavity, that is why air flows inside. During expiration the pressure inside the thoracic cavity increases, that is why the air flows outside. See, this is more than a biology lecture, this is like a physics lecture, because it is working on the air pressure principle. Okay, so please remember that. Okay, so that ends our first part for today, which is mechanism of breathing. So I hope this is clear. Okay, over here I have also shown the direction of airflow. In inspiration it goes in, expiration it goes out. And please remember all the 4 parts which take part in breathing. 2 are bones, sternum and the rib cage. So you will say, where does sternum play a part? So basically when your rib cage opens up or closes, the sternum is also moving slightly because of the intercostal muscles. So that is why sternum, your ribs, your diaphragm and all the intercostal muscles, they are playing a part. Is this clear? Okay, so one inspiration plus one expiration is counted as one breath. Is that clear? Okay, so once you take in air and that air when you remove, that is counted as one breath. Okay, so we have completed that part. Now in the mechanism of respiration, let us go to the second part, which is called as external respiration. So over here I have already drawn the diagram, okay, so that it saves our time. And first of all, let me write down the name of the heading, and that is called external respiration. Now what is external respiration? So external respiration is basically the part where you show how the gaseous exchange takes place at the alveolus. Okay, so this part can also be called as alveolar gas exchange. How gas is exchanged? So everybody now knows what alveolus is. So from the alveoli the oxygen is going to enter the blood, and from the blood the carbon dioxide is going to enter the alveolus. So that exchange is occurring, and that is called as external respiration. So in external respiration we have to explain the mechanism, why oxygen is diffusing from alveolar air to blood and why carbon dioxide is diffusing from the capillary blood to the alveolar air. Is this clear? Now let us have a look at this diagram. Okay, so in this diagram let me first point out a few things. So this entire yellow colored structure which is present, that is the capillary. Okay, for all those who don't know, let me just put it quickly. So blood vessels are of 3 kinds: arteries, capillaries and veins. So okay, now let's do this so that it becomes easy. Now this is an artery which is going. Okay, so artery flows and arteries get divided into smaller structures which are called as arterioles. So let me just label that so it becomes easy. This is artery and these are arterioles. Smaller arteries are arterioles. And then what happens is each arteriole further branches out into smaller structures, okay, which are called as capillaries. So these orange colored things are capillaries, and capillaries are the thinnest blood vessels, and because of that air can diffuse or gas molecules can diffuse through it. Then what happens is after some time again the capillaries join up and they form a structure which are called as venules. So I will show you the venule. So this is one venule, this is the second venule. Okay, so I will write down over here venule, and the venules then join up to form a vein. So is this clear? So actually the arteries and veins are connected. Okay, so artery will divide into arterioles, arterioles will divide into capillaries, capillaries will join to form a venule, and venule will join to form a vein. Everybody knows arteries carry oxygenated blood and veins carry deoxygenated blood. Now over here in the case of lungs, please remember pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein are present, okay? And pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein do not follow the normal rules. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, whereas pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood. So over here the rules are opposite. Why is it so? We will be seeing that in the circulatory system. So right now just remember that pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, so it is behaving like a vein, whereas pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood, so it is behaving like an artery. Okay, so here I am showing that blood from pulmonary artery is coming in. Pulmonary artery has divided into arterioles and now it has divided into this pulmonary capillary. So pulmonary means anything related to the lungs. Okay, so this is your capillary, correct? And then slowly the capillary will join to form venules and venules will join to form veins. So this is the pulmonary vein. And you can see deoxygenated blood is coming in, so I am showing blue colored, and oxygenated blood I am showing as red color. Now this orange colored structure which I have drawn inside, this is the alveolus. Okay, so simple structure if I show, this is one alveolus which I have shown, okay, and surrounding that alveolus is the capillary which I have shown. Okay, so now what is happening is this alveolus is filled with air. Now we have to explain how from this air oxygen is going to go into this capillary, and how this blood having carbon dioxide, from there the carbon dioxide is going to the alveolus. So first about oxygen, let me tell you. So again the principle over here is based on pressure. Air will always flow from high pressure to low pressure. So wherever oxygen is at a higher pressure, it will go to lower pressure. Similarly, wherever carbon dioxide is at a higher pressure, it will go to lower pressure. So the terms which we use, that term is called as the partial pressure. Okay, so let us talk about the partial pressure of oxygen first. Okay, partial pressure of oxygen is measured in the units of millimeters of mercury. So the air that we breathe in, okay, this is the alveolus. So this alveolus is filled with air and obviously oxygen is a part of it. So the partial pressure of the oxygen inside this alveolus is 104 millimeters of mercury. Okay, so this is alveolar air. Alveolar air means air present in alveolus. This blood which is, so this blood, these are the red blood cells which I have shown. Okay, so that is signifying blood. So this blood which is flowing in the capillary, okay, the direction of flow is from pulmonary artery to the pulmonary vein, correct? So the blood which is flowing, that is also having oxygen. Please remember, the oxygen that you breathe in, that oxygen is going into the blood. Not all of that oxygen is used up. Okay, so in that respiration reaction, some oxygen is used up and some oxygen again comes out with expiration. So it is not that all the oxygen that you take in is used up, some of it again comes out which is not used. So that oxygen will be flowing in this blood, correct? What is the pressure of the oxygen which is flowing in this blood coming from the pulmonary artery? So that pressure is approximately 40 millimeters of mercury. That is the partial pressure of oxygen in the capillary blood. Capillary blood means the blood which is flowing through this pulmonary capillary. So now what do you think, from where will oxygen go to which place? Obviously it will go from higher pressure to lower pressure. Pressure of oxygen is more over here in the alveolus and less in this capillary. So oxygen will go from alveolus into the capillary, correct? So I have shown this red colored arrow, you can see, and because of that, as you can see, the blood which is going ahead, it is slowly becoming red colored because the oxygen is getting attached to the hemoglobin. Is this clear? Is this clear why oxygen moves from alveolar air to blood? See, because you have to explain why oxygen from air is getting dissolved in the blood. It is diffusing because it is present at a higher partial pressure. It is going to an area which is at a lower partial pressure. If the partial pressure in the alveolus and the capillary of oxygen was same, then oxygen wouldn't have gone into the blood. This difference is causing the oxygen to move. Is this clear? So these values you have to remember. Please remember to write down the unit. Millimeters of mercury is the unit. Is this clear? Okay. Now let us come to the movement of carbon dioxide. So again we use partial pressure, but now instead of oxygen I am going to use carbon dioxide. So now carbon dioxide is present in this blood which is coming from pulmonary artery. It is the deoxygenated blood. Obviously it will have carbon dioxide also, because respiration reaction produces carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So this blood which is flowing, it is having a partial pressure of carbon dioxide of about 45 millimeters of mercury. So this is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the capillary blood. Okay, capillary blood is the blood which is flowing over here. So this blood which is flowing, it is having carbon dioxide with this partial pressure. Similarly, the air that you breathe in, obviously air will also have carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide also enters your alveoli. So the pressure of carbon dioxide in the alveoli will also be there, but it is not as much as compared to the pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood. So that pressure is 40 millimeters of mercury, which is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in alveolar air. Alveolar air means air present in the alveoli. So now what is going to happen? Again the same principle, carbon dioxide will move from higher partial pressure to lower partial pressure. So it is going to move from the capillary to the alveoli. So it is going to move in this direction. Is this clear? So I have shown it over here. Carbon dioxide moves from the capillary to the alveolus. So now are you understanding, when during breathing, during inspiration, the oxygen that we take in, why it enters the blood, and carbon dioxide during expiration, why it leaves the blood? Please remember, all the gases are taken in during inspiration, but why only oxygen is going inside the blood? See, other gases also dissolve in the blood, gases like nitrogen and all, but oxygen has a special carrier in the blood, hemoglobin. That is why oxygen gets concentrated more in the blood. Similarly, have you understood why dissolved carbon dioxide from here is going into the air? Why is it diffusing? Because of partial pressure. Is this clear? So you have to remember these values. Remember the partial pressures of oxygen. Alveolar oxygen has pressure 104 millimeters of mercury. Capillary oxygen has 40 millimeters. So oxygen goes from alveolus to blood capillaries. Alveolar carbon dioxide has 40 millimeters of mercury pressure. Capillary carbon dioxide has 45. So 45 to 40 will be the transfer. So carbon dioxide goes from capillary blood to alveolus. So now is this clear why oxygen is taken in the blood and carbon dioxide is removed from the blood? Okay. Now why is this diffusion occurring? So now if you see this diagram, I have drawn this structure. This is the wall of the alveolus, and you can see it is made up of single layer of cells. So the epithelium of alveoli we have already studied. It is squamous epithelium. Squamous epithelium is a simple epithelium made up of single layer of cells. The epithelium of the capillary is also made up of single cell, if you see. So that is also made up of squamous epithelium. This is a very, very important point. Both the membranes are very, very thin. Membrane of the alveolus is also very thin, and membrane of your capillary is also very thin, and that is why the gas is able to diffuse through. Remember that point of respiratory surface? The respiratory surfaces have to be very, very thin. So the surfaces are made up of a single layer of cells. Both are made up of squamous epithelium. So these cells which you see, they are also squamous epithelium. These orange cells of the alveoli, they are also squamous epithelium. And because of that, diffusion of gases becomes easy. Is this clear? And that is why the gases pass through these walls. So the blood is not entering the alveoli. This is a closed circulatory system. The blood is only going to flow in the vessels. But whatever things you need to remove from the blood or add to the blood, only those things will get diffused, and that is because the epithelium or the membranes of alveoli and the capillaries both are very, very thin, and hence things can move across it. Is this clear? Okay, so with that we finish external respiration also. So I hope you have understood external respiration. In that topic you have to basically explain the gaseous exchange taking place between the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries. Okay, So that ends our lecture for today. Okay, so we have finished two parts of mechanism of respiration. We have first finished breathing. Next we have finished this part which is called external respiration. So since there is some time left, let us just revise all the things that we had done during breathing. So let us go back. So first of all, we had studied about the diaphragm. So I told you diaphragm acts like a septum. What is a septum? A septum is basically a wall which divides the part. So diaphragm divides the cavity into the upper, which is the thoracic cavity, and the lower, which is the abdominal cavity. That is why it is a septum. It is a muscle. Now in mechanism of respiration, first thing is breathing. Breathing involves two parts: inspiration, expiration. Inspiration is taking up of air, expiration is removal of air. How does inspiration occur? First point is both the muscles, they contract, diaphragm and intercostal muscles. So your diaphragm will contract, so it will become flat, it will reduce in size, so there is space over here, so volume will increase, thoracic volume. Other thing is all your muscles which are present over here, the intercostal muscles, they will also contract. So what is going to happen is this rib cage is like this, that rib cage will be pulled outwards by the contracting intercostal muscles, so your rib cage will become like this. So now volume over here has also increased, so now there is space for the lungs to increase. How will air enter the lungs? Since the volume has increased, the pressure has decreased. So now air pressure inside the lungs is less, air pressure outside in the environment is more, air will flow from outside to inside. Is this clear? Okay, coming to expiration, everything opposite is happening. Both the muscles will relax. It is a passive process. Inspiration is an active process. So in the passive process, what happens is now both will relax, so your diaphragm will again increase in length and it will relax, so it will go up, so it will push from downward direction onto the lungs. Similarly, your intercostal muscles will also relax, so again this rib cage will go in. If it goes in, again it will put pressure on the lungs. Volume, thoracic volume has decreased, so thoracic pressure increases, again gradient is created. Thoracic air pressure is more than environmental air pressure, air rushes outside the lungs. Is this clear? Okay, what four things are required for breathing which play a very important part? Sternum, ribs, diaphragm, intercostal muscles. Done. Next thing is your external respiration, which we have already done just now. Okay, so in external respiration, please remember, first thing is that oxygen partial pressure is more in the alveoli compared to the oxygen partial pressure in the pulmonary capillary. 104 versus 40, so कहाँ से कहाँ पे जाएगा? It will move from 104 to 40. Oxygen goes into the blood. Carbon dioxide partial pressure is more in the pulmonary capillary compared to the alveolar air. 45 versus 40, कहाँ से कहाँ पे जाएगा? From the pulmonary capillary to the alveoli. So that is the movement. So in this diagram you can see that this blood which is coming, it is initially deoxygenated, so I have shown blue. Then as that blood moves more and more, oxygen keeps on dissolving, so by the time it reaches over here, it has become red in color. Is this clear? Okay, please remember, pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein both are carrying opposite things. Pulmonary artery is carrying deoxygenated blood, pulmonary vein is carrying oxygenated blood. Is this clear? Also, that diagram I had shown how vessels divide, so I hope even that is clear. Arteries divide into arterioles, they divide into capillaries, they divide into venules, and then vein. Where is the exchange occurring? Exchange is only occurring in the capillaries. Please remember, materials cannot diffuse from arteries because arteries are very thick walled, because the blood is flowing with a lot of pressure. Even through arterioles, diffusion cannot occur because arterioles are also thick walled, but capillaries are thin walled. Again, venules are thick walled, veins are thick walled. So exchange of materials from the cell and the blood can occur only in the capillaries. Please remember this. Okay, so guys, we have finished with the topic for today. Okay, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. If this lecture was helpful to you, please do share the lecture with your friends. Okay, put a like below, put comments below. Okay, so with that we end our today's part. Thanks a lot.